last name?
Kearney.
Thank you. Hello, welcome to Taxpayer Alert. We're pleased to have Supervisor Steve Kearney with us this session. And this is promising to be very interesting because if you've been reading the papers, Steve has been subject of a recall election. And so now we're going to hear the other side of the story, plus some good insight as to some of the problems that are beside that issue that he's concerned about. Steve, welcome.
Well, welcome to me. Al. I mean, I appreciate you having me. First, I want to thank you for having me here on the hottest day of the year. It's so nice and cool in here. When this is over, I brought a sleeping bag. I'm just going to spend the night, if that's okay.
We keep the air conditioner going.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, you've been in public service for a little while now. You're a planning commissioner, and then now you're a supervisor. And you're part of a direction, I think, is that for lack of a better description, it seems to be positive toward property rights and development. And where in the past, for 10 years or so, such has not been the case. And so our taxpayer group, of course, is applauding everything that can be done to support the property owners. But what the people probably need to know a little bit is something about you. How did you get started in this, and what is your family involved with this and supporting you? And what do you? Well, just tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks. I'm going to take most of what you said as a compliment right off the bat. So thank you. I do have a great deal of concern for the property rights of the county and government spending. Those are high on my list of things that I wake up in the middle of the night, and I don't know if you call them dreams or not, but have those uh-oh moments. And
they can be nightmares.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, but it's, when you do this, it kind of stays with you all the time. I grew up in San Joaquin County, spent a lot of my youth roaming the countryside up here. My dad grew up near Clements, and my grandparents lived there also. So it was very common for me to come up here, and can honestly say I was in the town of Comanche before they flooded it, with 3 generations of my family. So I've always had a love affair with the county, and it's a real honor to be here. I went to school at Lodi Schools, graduated from Delta College and the University of California at Davis. Had to make some real money when I got out of school, so I spent 30 years with a retail company called Long's Drug Store. And the last 13 years with that company were spent in Valley Springs, and I left their employ after 30 years, literally the day that they sold to the next company. So that gave me a good connection with the community that I was in, became very involved in the issues that affect us, the nonprofit groups that are there, chaired the fireworks over New Hogan for 13 straight years, and have always been involved in it in some way. Enjoy being there. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. And coming to this level was a new chance to help the community.
Well, gee, that's very interesting. So let's the number one hot button topic going on now is the asphalt plant. Now, will asphalt hurt us?
Well, like many children of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, I chewed on pieces of asphalt like my friends did when they were laying it on the side, and it didn't hurt me.
I did too when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of protections around the industry. I know for a plant to be constructed, it has to go through an authority to construct process, which requires all kinds of environmental reviews up to a full environmental impact report. I know that they are responsible to 18 different agencies in our government, the EPA, Water Resources Control, Air Resources Control Board. There are so many of them I can't name them. It's being laid in our county every day. Unfortunately, it's being produced elsewhere. So is it the right thing at the location? Right now it's under an environmental review, and I expect our experts to tell us yes or no.
If I remember correctly, the company already had industrial land that there was a rock quarry, and it's heavy industrial, and he wanted to put in another heavy industrial facility with make asphalt with the rocks he already had. So he had the gravel, and so he was putting like a cement with the gravel, making asphalt cement. And the major complaint, I think, was a fear that there would be fumes, that it would go for a mile or 2 miles, and then affect the people that in the subdivisions and the surrounding areas. Is that what you see as the main objection?
Well, I see it as misinformation to what's out there, Al. The asphalt plant, to begin operation, has to be issued an authority to construct from the Air Resources Control Board. That can't be denied. It has to go through that process. Right. They will vet the issues regarding that. And they can, in this instance, we were told that they've requested a full environmental impact report. It's not something the Board of Supervisors they say that they shouldn't do it or should do it. Right. It's just a fact of business. So will it, has that been ignored to the community? No, I mean, their concerns are going to be addressed through these studies, and also their responsibility to the governing agencies.
You know, it should be said that some of the people I know that are upset about this issue are good people, but they're afraid, and sometimes this fear is generated deliberately, and that's what's kind of sad to see, because what we need is clarification what the truth is, and once we know the truth, it's on the table. Is there a problem or is it not a problem? Then we can get on with life. Our county has been suffering with projects that have been shot down for reasons that didn't seem to be real. We've lost millions and millions of dollars of invested money in our county because of this trend. And so being able to just get the truth on the table seems to be what our job should be. And then if the asphalt is not really hurtful or a pollutant, and they can produce paving at a less expense on the taxpayer, and that's wonderful. We should applaud. If on the other hand it's a pollutant and it could hurt, well then fine, we go that way. But this in between area where we have this tremendous fear hurts our economy and hurts investors that would want to come to our county and produce something. And so, what do you think would be the next step on this issue, and when would that happen?
Well, we were told by staff, and I can tell you from a distant observation that the portable asphalt plant that they had at the quarry has been moved. Right. And it's been moved to Carson Hill mine. I don't know what exact state that's in. That would probably be a question for our environmental management staff. But I do understand that the negative deck was already done there, and it can go into operation. As far as what is the next step for the current location, they were told last August to expect to do a full environmental review. And it was placed again in the Calaveras Enterprise, a long response from our planning director as well as our environmental manager, that they have been told they were going to have to do a complete environmental review. The people that have become frightened over this will have every chance to find out whether this fits their neighborhood or not. I like to tell people when they ask me about this, the Board of Supervisors didn't give anybody an e-ticket to ride where they just get to go ahead and do this. They were sent through the process, which includes an environmental review. They were not ever told they were devoid of that. It's something that has to be happen, that has to be done. So the people that are concerned about this, excuse me, that you're bringing up, will have the chance to find out about it before anything ever is produced there.
You know, there could be a sniff test involved with this. The plant now is in operation or soon to be in operation in Carson Hill. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we would just go 1,000 feet away from that plant when it's operating, sniff the air. Downwind, of course.
Well, you know,
and see if you smell anything. Okay, then go a mile.
It sounds
and then go 2
It
miles.
sounds like you're adding another government acronym to me.
Okay, we're not allowed to have the sniff test.
Well, SNF, so got to do the SNF test. I love government acronyms. I think there needs to be a whole book done on them. I think it's the perfect. It's been a painful scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly don't like having people malign my character over this, but the bottom line is exactly what you just described. If it's going to be set up in Carson Hill,
go smell it.
You can stand outside of it and see how you feel about it. I don't believe it is going to be the problem people think it is, but I'm not an engineer. I've never said I was. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a planning director. There are people that are going to make that judgment, and that onus has been put to them.
Okay, I understand.
And frankly, it always was going to them.
Yeah. All right. Next hot button topic is highway funds. I understand that a contractor had an agreement with the county that funds would be set aside for certain work that would relate to a project that he had. It turned out that the funds were not actually needed, and they were returned to the contractor. And then this was felt to be unfair to the taxpayer, which would have a claim on those funds for other purposes. Am I reading that right? Or
well, not exactly. The taxpayer never had possession of any funds. It was sort of the best way I can describe it to somebody, that the developer had agreed about a decade ago that every time he sold a home in the Olive Orchard Estates area, he would put a certain amount of money in sort of an escrow account, and that money would be held for a turn lane on Highway 26, or possibly other developments on Highway 26. And that onus has been on that developer for some time. He obviously, like any business person, doesn't want to do that, or did not want to do that, because he didn't feel it was necessary. He went to the planning department and asked that be reviewed. They asked him to pay for a traffic study, which he did. The traffic study indicated that it was not necessary. Caltrans reviewed it, our Public Works Department reviewed it, and they agreed that it wasn't necessary. The vote came back to the board, and we relieved him of that responsibility to put that money in escrow, sort of. And so some people seem to be upset about that. To me, it was the right thing to do. We were doing what our planning department and Public Works and Caltrans recommended, basically. In any good business environment, if you free up somebody's capital, it's going to help you somewhere else. So this developer subsequently has started building out a housing development across from the Terrace Shopping Center on Highway 26. The last time I checked, doing that, he's already paid over $300,000 in fees to the county. So we weren't getting any money before, but now from the same developer we have.
I see. Now, on the new development, is each home going to have a portion of money set aside for future road developments?
The development is still responsible to pay RIM fees, and into the Valley Springs Benefit Basin.
Okay, now this other money is in addition to that.
Those two fees are in addition to what he was paying. That's been forgiven. The fact of the business is nobody was doing anything with the money he was putting in, as I gave the colloquial description of an escrow account. That was just sitting. Has that been returned to him or not? I don't know. That's not really my business to know that. But I know he doesn't have to do it anymore.
Okay, I see. So it looks like the moral thing is not to take the money from somebody that's not needed.
Correct.
Okay.
It was essentially it was almost a punishment on them, and they were doing nothing with it. And according to our paid experts, Caltrans and Public Works, they had no intention of doing anything with it. And to continue to require them to do that was a penalty.
And government should not be crushing development to begin with. Should be fair to the developers.
Well, at least consistent with everyone else. I mean, and they weren't required to pay something in excess of rim fees or benefit basin fees.
Okay, that was the second hot button topic.
We're through that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you have some concerns about solid waste. I understand that you're involved with a solid waste task force. Is that correct?
I'm the supervisorial liaison to the solid waste task force. When I took it over after my swearing in, the task force hadn't met for a year. So it took a little while to gear up, and also honestly took me a while to learn about the industry. We've come a long ways in a short time, and I've learned a lot frankly, about garbage and opportunities, as well as our liabilities and responsibilities dealing with it. We have a large facility at Rock Creek. It's a large ranch facility where we own quite a bit of acreage, and our garbage is taken there. There's a cost to operating it, and we have a lot of great employees out there, so there's a responsibility to them also. But we really have to ask ourselves what our future is and how much is it going to cost us to maintain our future in dealing with our solid waste issues. So coming before the board in a short time will be a request for proposal from Public Works that's going to do a very thorough study that helps us lay out our next 5 to 10 to 20 years in solid waste and what they would recommend that we do. Should we be in the business? Shouldn't we be in the business? Can we afford to do what we're doing? There's a lot of questions and they need to be answered, and that's coming up very shortly. And it took a lot of prodding, a lot of hard work, and a lot of learning on my own part, but we've got some great people that are concerned about it, and I'm looking forward to this being done.
I remember I guess almost 20 years ago, when the facility was first came about, when it was first proposed, and it was kind of controversial then because it was so much money and so big.
Right.
And at that time, I didn't have the wisdom I have now, if I have any left over. But it seemed like it was awful large. But what happened over the years, I found that the engineers were right, that their planning ahead for a 20-year span made sense. And so we had the best, most economical way of handling our solid waste. And so hindsight is so much better than foresight when it comes to me in this case. So I'm glad that the project did go ahead. Now I understand that there's some communities don't have government do it, or their public works departments. They farm it out to the private sector. Some large companies, solid waste companies, just manage the whole thing. And, is the task force concerned about seeing not only that the facility is run properly, but also that in comparison to other facilities or the private sector, if you decided that it would be better to farm it out would the task force be looking at that, or would that require a separate study?
No, that study is going to look at that.
Okay.
And really, you're spot on with some of your thoughts. 20 years ago, it probably was almost a state-of-the-art approach to where we were going. But now, by 2020, the state has put some serious requirements where we have to, and hopefully I've got the numbers right, there's divert 75% of our garbage out of the dump, which means, we have to get all the recyclables out, the green waste out, all of the things that we've been putting in it can't continue to go in it. And that's not just us, it's throughout the state. So if we're only going to put 25% of our garbage in there that we have now, is that going to be rational for us to manage that? That's part of what this will answer. Like anything, volume is what makes something financially feasible. If we decrease our volume, could it be cheaper for us to either privatize the dump or take it out of the county? There are a whole lot of questions, and I would be irresponsible to say I know the answers because I don't. But I do know that we need to look at them and identify them, and we've got to make a decision on them. And that decision has got to come within the next year or so, because 2020 will be here before you know it.
Well, not to be critical of the state, though sometimes I am.
I've never heard that.
There seems to be a point of logic in handling of solid waste. There's a certain percentage of time that can be expended in sorting the garbage between plastics and paper and the different things. And then you could reach a point where you're expending so much time in doing this that the cost is much more than the benefit. In other words, it'd be simpler just to have a larger area for landfill.
Well, you have to also, and we just had the perfect example in the last few months about the fact that recyclables are a commodity. Right. And people wonder why our little kiosks for aluminum cans are all closed down. Well, they closed down because some of the last loads they had picked up, they actually had to pay to have them taken away. Well, business doesn't operate like that. Right. And, for us to divert things like that out of our landfills, we have to really, ask ourselves how we're going to do it economically.
Right.
If you've ever visited a merchandise or a materials recycling facility, and you see the things they have stacked up, it's an enormous amount of material.
Right.
Bales of plastic bottles, bales of aluminum cans, bales of cardboard. Well, they have to do something with that eventually. Do they ship it overseas to foreign clients? Well, maybe, but it still has to pay the bill to do it.
Well, if it costs $100 to make that bale and you get $50 for it, to me, that doesn't make sense.
Pretty easy to get on your calculator and figure that one out, isn't it? And that's what this study is going to address, a lot of that. How do we deal with these issues? Right now, if you want to recycle your aluminum cans, you can either pay Cal Waste, right, and get a blue can and throw them in there, and they pick them up, and that's part of your curbside pickup. Right. You could take them to one of our transfer stations and dump them, but they still don't give you any money for them. Or Valley Recycling in Valley Springs does take them, and I understand they buy them back from you. That's the only place in the county you can take them and get paid back for them.
Now, how much they pay would depend on how much you spend on gas driving to their facility to get paid for the aluminum.
It is, like I said a second ago, it's not too hard to figure out on your calculator.
Yeah.
If you're going to fill your car up with gas and you take it down there and you get $10 and your gas costs you $11,
right?
I think we can all figure that out. And those are strong issues that are facing the county. How are we going to deal with that? I think this study will help us figure that out.
Oh, that'd be good. And when do you think the study will be completed?
It'll probably, first I've got to, it'll come before the board for approval to do it. It's been budgeted. It's been budgeted for a couple of years now, but the board will have to address it. I would say probably in this, just guessing, next late spring, next summer.
Okay.
We'll have some thoughts on where we're going with it.
All right. Now, is there enough flexibility in the state regulations where if the study shows that something doesn't make sense, we're not required to do it anyway by the state? In other words, would the study trump the state regulations?
I can't completely answer that, but I would think not. There's a pretty big onus on the county to respond to the state regs on this.
Okay, regardless of whether they make sense or not.
Yeah. No, we have got to get our solid waste issues in a line with what we're being told we need to do.
Okay.
Cal Recycle is here regularly, looking to see where we're at this time, and I'm sure they're going to continue to do that.
Okay.
As I said about another issue, the county doesn't get an e-ticket to write on this either.
Right.
We've got to do what we're told to do.
Okay, I understand. Now, one of the things that you've been involved with, among many things, is senior citizens. And you have some thoughts about that.
Well, it was really a surprise assignment that's become a passion. This county is home to a large senior population, many of whom are veterans, which is also another passion of mine, and helping the veterans. But also in that population, it's growing. Even our population level might be static, but the population of seniors is actually increasing. I would like to bring more services to them that I think we're paying for. I'm looking forward to doing more and more for them. I have just become excited about finding things that I believe they should already be getting but aren't, especially my senior veterans as well as all other veterans. It's becoming, I look forward to working in this area. It's something that I'm excited about. Had you brought this up to me 3-4 years ago, I would have scratched my head and said, But now that I've been a board member of JPA 12 Area Agency on Aging and I've been working on the issues in the county, I look forward to helping make their lives better.
Well, I'm 75 years old and I'm a veteran, and I've never thought much about what the senior centers do. Though I did have lunch there; it was pretty good. But everybody there seemed to be so old. They weren't so. I'd rather be around young people.
Well, I don't know what to tell you on that one, Al. I don't really see you as an old person. I'm finding age is kind of relevant to the thinker, just because your age might be there doesn't mean you're old. But thanks a million.
Thank you for being here.
It was a great time. I appreciate it. Love this nice cool air.
Our Taxpayer Alert. See you next time.